After graduation, my family dropped me off at a bus stop with $69 and a backpack. "Good luck out there," my mom said. 13 years later, I arrived at the family reunion in a limo. They didn't recognize me. The sticky vinyl seat of the Greyhound bus clung to my bare legs. The June heat pressed through the windows like a tangible weight. And somewhere 3 rows back, a baby screamed, its face turning purple while its mother bounced it desperately. I stared at the crumpled bills in my palm, $69, consisting of 3 20s, a 5, and 4 1s. My entire inheritance from 18 years of existence. My phone buzzed, a text from my older brother, Derek. Mom says, "Don't bother coming back. We're changing the locks tomorrow." I should have seen it coming. Maybe deep down I did. The signs had been there for years, hidden in the form of forgotten birthdays and Christmas presents that never materialized, while my siblings tore into carefully chosen gifts. But hope is a stubborn thing, especially when you're 17 and foolish enough to believe that blood means something. The bus jerked forward, releasing a cloud of diesel fumes into the Oklahoma afternoon. Through the grimy window, I watched my hometown shrink in the distance. Somewhere among the strip malls and fast food joints was the house where I grew up, where my mother had sat at the kitchen table that morning, sipping her coffee while my stepfather Gary read the newspaper. They sat in silence as I carried my graduation gown to the car. The ceremony itself had been fine, standard. I walked across the stage, accepted my diploma, and smiled for the mandatory photo. My family hadn't cheered. Derek and my younger sister Madison were on their phones. Gary yawned. Mom clapped twice, the polite golf clap you'd give a stranger's performance. Afterward, in the parking lot, she handed me the backpack. "What's this?" I asked. "Your things?" Mom replied, digging for her keys. "We figured it was time." "Time for what?" I asked. Gary answered without looking up from his phone. "You're 18 now, Natalie. Legal adult. Time to make your own way." But the words tangled in my throat. I was going to community college. We talked about it. I was going to live at home. Plans change. Mom opened her wallet and counted out the bills with the same careful precision she used when leaving a tip at restaurants. She pressed them into my hand. "Good luck out there." Madison actually laughed. "Bet she'll come crawling back by Tuesday." "She won't," Derek said. "I'm changing the locks tomorrow. Already ordered them on Amazon." They drove away. Simple as that. Left me standing in the parking lot of Lincoln High School in my graduation dress and cheap heels, holding a backpack I'd never seen before, and $69 in cash. An hour later, a teacher found me still standing there. Mrs. Patterson, my English teacher. She drove me to the bus station, pressed an extra $20 into my hand despite my protests, and wrote her phone number on a piece of paper. "You call me if you need anything," she said. "Anything at all. You're a smart girl, Natalie. Don't let this break you." The memory faded as the bus hit a pothole, jolting me back to the present. I unzipped the backpack and took inventory for the 3rd time. 2 pairs of jeans, both too small. 3 t-shirts, none of them mine. A travel-sized bottle of shampoo. A toothbrush still in its package. No phone charger, no medications, no tampons, no socks, no underwear beyond what I was wearing. They gave me a stranger's belongings. Cast-offs, forgotten things. Now, I had $89 in total, including Mrs. Patterson's contribution. I was headed to Dallas because it was the cheapest ticket, and because I'd heard cities offered opportunities. What opportunities? I had no idea. My plan stretched only as far as the next 8 hours. The first night, I slept in the bus station. Security woke me at 3 a.m. and told me to move along. I walked until dawn, and when a diner opened, I ordered the cheapest thing on the menu, 2 eggs and toast for $1.99. The waitress, probably around 60, had the weathered face of someone who'd lived hard, smoked too much. Her name tag read Doris. "You running from something or toward something?" she asked, refilling my water glass. "Does it matter?" "Might." She studied me with sharp eyes. "You got that look. Seen it before on my own daughter." I didn't answer. She didn't press. But when I left, she followed me outside. "We need a dishwasher," Doris said. "Pays minimum wage. Cash under the table, since you probably don't have paperwork sorted yet. You can start tonight if you want. There's a room above the storage unit out back. Ain't much, but it's got a bed and a door that locks." The room was essentially a closet with delusions of grandeur. A twin mattress on a metal frame. A hot plate, a mini fridge that hummed like an angry bee. The bathroom was shared with the storage unit, which meant navigating around industrial cans of tomato sauce to shower. But it was mine. For the first time in my life, I had a space that was entirely my own. I worked the night shift, from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., scrubbing pots until my hands cracked and bled. During the day, I enrolled in community college using financial aid and a grant for homeless youth that the counselor helped me apply for. Business administration seemed practical, even if it was boring. Exactly the kind of thing that could lead to steady paychecks. The first year was brutal. I'd fall asleep in class, jerking awake when my head hit the desk. My grades suffered. I lived on diner leftovers and the cheapest ramen from the corner store. My phone died, and I couldn't afford to replace it, so there was no social media, no connection to the world I'd left behind. Sometimes I wondered if my family ever thought about me. If Mom woke up and felt a flicker of regret? Probably not. Winter came early that year. November brought ice storms that knocked out power across half the city. The storage room had no heat except for the hot plate, which I was terrified to leave running while I slept. I piled on every piece of clothing I owned, and still woke up shivering, my breath visible in the air. During one of those frozen weeks, I got sick, really sick. A fever that spiked to 103, a cough that felt like broken glass in my lungs. I couldn't afford to miss work or class, so I pushed through. Doris found me passed out in the dish pit on the third night. She drove me to the emergency room herself, stayed while they diagnosed me with pneumonia, and paid the bill when I started crying about how I couldn't afford it. "You can pay me back when you're a fancy businesswoman," she said, patting my hand. That kindness from a near stranger broke something in me. I cried for 2 hours in that hospital bed, not from pain, but from the realization that a woman who'd known me for 5 months cared more about my survival than the people who'd raised me. Doris cut my shifts down to weekends only after that, insisting I focus on school. "You're too smart to be washing dishes forever," she said. "This is just your starting point, not your destination." Those words became my mantra. Starting point, not destination. By spring semester, I'd found a rhythm. Class during the day, studying in the library until it closed, work on weekends. I learned to survive on 5 hours of sleep. I learned which vending machines occasionally spat out free snacks if you hit them right. I learned that the student center had a food pantry that asked no questions. Pride nearly killed me that first winter. After pneumonia, I stopped being proud. If there was free food, I took it. If there was a coat drive, I went. If someone offered help, I accepted it. In March, the campus counselor, Dr. Martinez, called me into her office. I thought I was in trouble, but instead, she told me about a scholarship specifically for students experiencing homelessness or housing insecurity. "It's $5,000, she said. "You'd qualify. But I have a room above a storage unit with no heat, making $7.25 an hour." She pushed the application across the desk. "Natalie, there's no nobility in suffering. Take the help. I got the scholarship." I used it to buy a used car, a 1998 Honda Civic with 180,000 miles and a passenger door that stuck. That car was freedom. Suddenly, I could work day shifts at a better-paying restaurant. I could drive to job interviews instead of relying on the unreliable bus system. I could keep my groceries in the trunk without worrying about the mini fridge dying. Small victories, but they accumulated. Professor Chen noticed me falling asleep in his accounting class. The third time it happened, he asked me to stay after. "You working nights?" he asked. "Yes, sir," I replied. "Where?" I told him about the diner, about Doris, and about living in the room above the storage unit. He listened without interrupting, which was unusual in my experience. Most people are just waiting for their turn to speak. "I need a research assistant," he said finally. 15 hours a week, flexible schedule, pays $12 an hour. It's mostly data entry and organizing files. Think you can handle it? It felt like a trap. Good things didn't just happen, but I took the job anyway, and Professor Chen kept his word. The work was exactly as he described it, boring, methodical, but blessedly drama-free. With the extra money, I bought a used laptop and quit the night shift at the diner, though Doris let me keep the room at a reduced rent. I started sleeping normal hours, and my grades improved. By the end of my second year, I'd made the dean's list. You should apply to the internship program, Professor Chen said. Stevenson Financial Group takes 2 students every summer. Pays $20 an hour. I'm not qualified. Let them decide that. The interview was at a downtown high-rise, all glass and steel, with the kind of aggressive air conditioning that makes you want a sweater in July. The recruiter was a woman named Jennifer Walsh, in her 30s, wearing a sharp suit and asking sharper questions. "Why do you want to work in finance?" she asked. The honest answer was that I wanted stability, money, the kind of security that meant never being abandoned at a bus stop again. But that wasn't something you say in interviews. "I'm interested in the mechanisms that drive economic decisions," I said instead. "How capital allocation affects everything from individual lives to global markets." "That's very polished," Jennifer smiled. "Now tell me the real reason. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe I was tired of pretending. I want to never be poor again. Now we're getting somewhere." She leaned back in her chair. "Tell me about a time you failed." I told her about my first semester, falling asleep in class, getting a D in microeconomics, and clawing my way back up. Jennifer hired me on the spot. The internship changed everything. I wasn't just filing papers or entering data. They had me analyzing investment portfolios, building financial models, and sitting in on client meetings. One of the senior partners, Marcus Stevenson himself, took an interest in my work. "You've got instincts," he said after I caught an error in a client's tax strategy that would have cost them 6 figures. "Ever think about staying on after graduation? I've got 2 more years of school. We can work around that." The office became my second home. I'd arrive at 7 a.m. and leave at midnight, soaking up everything I could learn. Marcus started inviting me to bigger meetings, introducing me to clients as one of our rising stars. Other interns resented it. I didn't care. They had safety nets, family money, and apartments their parents paid for. I had nothing except what I could build myself. One of those clients was a woman named Patricia Holbrook, in her 60s, sharp as a knife. She'd built a chain of medical clinics from the ground up and sold them for 8 figures. During a portfolio review meeting, she asked me directly what I thought about her asset allocation. Marcus looked nervous. Clients didn't usually ask for opinions. "Too conservative," I said. "You're positioned like someone who needs the money, but you don't. With your timeline and risk tolerance, you could afford to be more aggressive in emerging markets." The room went silent. Patricia stared at me for what felt like an hour. Then she laughed. "I like her. She's honest." After the meeting, Patricia pulled me aside. "How old are you?" And you're working how many hours a week?" "Between school and here, maybe 70. She studied me with eyes that seemed to see straight through my professional demeanor. "You've got that hunger, that desperation. I recognize it because I had it too." She handed me her business card. "If you ever want advice or just someone to talk to who's been where you are, you call me." Patricia became an unexpected mentor. We met for coffee once a month, and she told me about building her business, the sexism she'd faced, and the mistakes she'd made. She never asked about my family, but somehow I knew she understood that I was alone. "The people who underestimate you are giving you an advantage," she once said. "Let them think you're lucky or inexperienced. Then prove them wrong so thoroughly they can't deny it." That became my strategy. I worked harder than anyone, said less, and delivered results that spoke for themselves. During my junior year, Marcus assigned me to a project that everyone else had declined. A startup founder wanted to restructure his company's equity distribution, and it was a nightmare of complicated tax implications and founder disputes, the kind of thing that could blow up in your face and ruin your reputation. "Why me?" I asked. "Because you won't quit until you figure it out," Marcus said. "And because if you pull this off, you'll prove you can handle anything." He was right. I spent 6 weeks essentially living at the office, building models and running scenarios. The founder was difficult, temperamental, and convinced he knew better than anyone. I'd learned to let him talk himself in circles, then quietly show him the numbers. In the end, the restructuring saved him $3 million in taxes and resolved the equity dispute. The founder recommended us to 4 other startup CEOs. Marcus gave me a bonus that was more than I'd made in my entire first year in Dallas. "That's partner track work," he said. "Keep it up." Those 2 words, partner track, became my North Star. Every project, every client meeting, every late night was a step toward that goal, toward security that no one could take from me. They offered me a part-time position with full-time pay, contingent on maintaining my grades. The catch was I had to commit to working for them for at least 3 years after graduation. No brainer. I signed the contract that afternoon. The next 2 years blurred together. Classes during the day, work in the evenings and weekends. I graduated with a degree in finance. Stevenson Financial made me a junior analyst. The salary was $70,000 a year, more than my stepfather had made in his best year. I moved into a real apartment, 1 bedroom, but it had a full kitchen and a bathroom that was entirely mine. I bought new clothes, the kind you wear to client meetings. Got my hair cut at an actual salon instead of the supercuts by campus. Opened a retirement account. By 24, after proving myself on several high-stakes accounts, I was making 6 figures. At 25, they promoted me to senior analyst. At 27, Marcus made me a partner, the youngest in the firm's history. "You hungry?" Marcus had said. "You've got that fire. People either have it or they don't. Can't teach it." Maybe he was right. Maybe getting abandoned at a bus stop had burned something away, leaving only the parts of me that knew how to survive. I bought a house. Nothing crazy, but it was mine. 3 bedrooms in a good neighborhood with trees lining the streets. I hired a financial advisor to manage my own investments and built a portfolio that generated passive income. By 30, my net worth had crossed $2 million. The house hunting process felt surreal. The realtor, a perky woman named Stephanie, kept showing me properties and talking about starter homes and building equity for your future family. She'd assumed I was married, or at least in a serious relationship. "Just me," I'd said. "Oh, well, you might want something smaller then. These 3-bedroom places are really more for—" "I'll take it," I interrupted, standing in the middle of the empty living room. "I want this one," she blinked. "Don't you want to think about it? See a few more properties?" "No, this is the one." What I hadn't told her was that I needed those extra bedrooms. Not for children or a partner, but because I couldn't shake the fear of small spaces. The storage room above the diner had left its mark. I needed space to breathe, room to move, the assurance that I wasn't trapped. The master bedroom became mine. The 2nd bedroom became an office. The 3rd stayed empty for 2 years before I finally furnished it as a guest room, though I never had guests. Patricia came to the housewarming dinner. I invited just her, Marcus, Doris, and Professor Chen, 4 people who'd seen me at my lowest and helped me climb. "Look at you," Doris said, tears in her eyes as she walked through the house. "I knew you'd make it, baby. I knew it." That night, after everyone had gone home, I sat on my back patio and cried, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming weight of having made it, of being safe, of having a door that locked, a bed that was mine, and food in the refrigerator. The girl who had slept in a bus station would have never believed this was possible. But success came with its own complications. Dating was a disaster. Men either felt intimidated by my career or assumed I'd be their sugar mama. I genuinely tried to build connections, but trust was a luxury I couldn't afford. Every time someone got close, I waited for the other shoe to drop, for them to reveal that they wanted something from me, that their affection came with conditions. A therapist I'd started seeing, Dr. Robertson, who Patricia had recommended, pointed this out gently. "You're waiting for people to abandon you," she said, "because that's what you learned family does." "But I'm not wrong, am I?" I countered. "People do leave, some do, but not all. And by keeping everyone at arm's length, you're abandoning them first." That stung because it was true. I'd built walls so high that no one could scale them. It was safer that way. Lonelier, but safer. Work became my relationship. I poured everything into it. My time, my energy, my identity. Clients loved me because I was available 24/7, never distracted by family obligations or personal drama. My colleagues respected me because I delivered results. Marcus relied on me because I never said no. It was enough. It had to be enough. On my 30th birthday, I was closing a deal in San Francisco. No cake, no celebration, just a conference room and a 16-hour negotiation session. We finalized the contract at 11 p.m. The client insisted on celebratory drinks, so we went to some upscale bar where cocktails cost $20. I'd excused myself to the bathroom and stood there, looking at my reflection in the mirror. Expensive suit, perfect makeup, the kind of polish that came from having money, time, and access. I looked successful. I looked powerful. I looked completely alone. My phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. "Happy birthday, kiddo. Proud of you. Let's do lunch next week." That simple message made me cry in a San Francisco bathroom while my client waited for me at the bar. 30 years old, a self-made millionaire, and the only person who had remembered my birthday was a mentor I'd met through work. That's when the first crack appeared in my armor. The realization that maybe, just maybe, success wasn't enough on its own. And through all of it, I never once contacted my family, never looked them up on social media, never drove back to Oklahoma, never sent a Christmas card. They'd erased me. I returned the favor. But I thought about them late at night when the house was too quiet. I'd wonder what they were doing, whether Derek had ever felt guilty, whether Madison had grown into someone less cruel, whether Mom had ever mentioned me at all. The invitation came on a Tuesday in July. It was forwarded from an old email address I hadn't used in years. The subject line read, "Baker Family Reunion, July 27th. Everyone welcome." My mother's maiden name was Baker. Her side of the family did a reunion every 5 years at her parents' property outside Tulsa. I'd been to exactly 2 before they abandoned me. Once when I was 8, once when I was 13. The email was cheerful, almost aggressively so. Potluck lunch, swimming in the pond, catch up with cousins you haven't seen in years. There was a headcount section asking people to RSVP with a number attending. I stared at that email for 3 days. The smart thing would be to delete it, move on. I'd built a good life, a successful life. Going back served no purpose except reopening old wounds. But something bitter and vindictive whispered in the back of my mind. They'd thrown me away like garbage, left me with nothing, laughed about it. I wanted them to see what I'd become. So I RSVP'd attending. I didn't include a name. The reunion was 3 weeks away. Plenty of time to plan. I called the luxury car service in Tulsa and arranged for a limousine and a driver for the day. I booked a room at the nicest hotel downtown. Bought a new outfit, something that whispered money without screaming it. A cream linen pantsuit that had cost $800 and somehow looked both casual and expensive. The morning of the reunion, I woke up in the hotel at 6:01 a.m., too nervous to sleep. I spent 2 hours on hair and makeup, aiming for the kind of polished perfection that comes from professional maintenance. My hair, longer now and properly colored, fell in smooth waves. My nails were manicured. I looked like I belonged on the cover of a business magazine. The limo arrived at 11 noise. The driver, a man named James with a kind face and impeccable professionalism, held the door. "Where to, ma'am?" I gave him the address. The Baker family property was exactly as I remembered. 15 acres of Oklahoma scrubland with a pond, a barn that leaned slightly to the left, and a house that had been old when my grandparents bought it in the 70s. Cars lined the long driveway, trucks, minivans, a few sedans coated in dust. The limousine glided past them like a shark among minnows. I timed it for noon, right when everyone would be gathering for lunch. Maximum visibility. James parked near the house. Through the tinted windows, I could see people stopping mid-conversation, turning to stare. The limo was black and sleek, so obviously expensive that it might as well have had dollar signs painted on the sides. "Would you like me to wait here?" James asked. "Please." This shouldn't take long. He opened my door. I stepped out into the Oklahoma heat, grateful for the sunglasses that hid my eyes. My heels sank slightly into the grass. The crowd had gone quiet. Maybe 40 people scattered across the lawn, paper plates in hand, kids running between the picnic tables, every one of them staring. I walked toward the main cluster near the food tables. My grandmother, stooped with age but still sharp-eyed, stood next to a woman I didn't recognize. My Aunt Carol was there, and my Uncle Pete, along with a handful of cousins whose names I'd forgotten. And there, at the center of it all, were my mother and Gary. Mom had gained weight, her face rounder than I remembered. Gary's hair had gone gray. Derek stood next to them, a woman and 2 kids at his side. Madison was there too, scrolling on her phone with the same bored expression she'd worn at my graduation. Nobody recognized me. Why would they? The girl they'd abandoned had been soft with baby fat, wearing a cheap dress and cheaper makeup. The woman walking toward them now looked like she belonged in a corporate boardroom. I stopped about 10 feet away and removed my sunglasses. Hi, Mom. The recognition dawned slowly. Mom's eyes went wide. She actually took a step back. Natalie, she whispered. Conversations around us died. Everyone was watching now. Surprised? I smiled. I was in the neighborhood. Thought I'd stop by. My mom seemed to be struggling with words. You look different, she finally said. 3 years will do that. Derek found his voice. What are you doing here? Family reunion, I said, gesturing at the crowd. That's what the invitation said. Everyone welcome. You weren't invited, Madison said, finally looking up from her phone. Actually, the email said, everyone. That's pretty inclusive. I turned to Gary. How have you been, Gary? Still reading the newspaper every morning? He didn't answer. His face had gone an interesting shade of red. My grandmother pushed forward, her walker making hollow thumps on the grass. Natalie, is that really you? Hi, Grandma. Lord child, where have you been? Dallas, mostly, building a career. I kept my voice light, conversational. I work in finance. Partner at an investment firm. Partner? Mom's voice came out strangled. Youngest in the company's history, actually. I let that sit for a moment. It's been a good 13 years. Challenging at first, obviously. That first night sleeping in the bus station was rough. But things improved. Bus station. Aunt Carol had joined us now. What's she talking about, Linda? She asked, looking at my mom. Mom's face was white. We didn't. Sure you did. I interrupted. I addressed the crowd now, projecting slightly so everyone could hear. See, my family here dropped me off at a bus stop right after my high school graduation. Gave me $69 and a backpack with someone else's old clothes. Mom said, "Good luck out there," and drove away. It was very character building. The silence was absolute. Someone's kids started crying, quickly hushed. You're lying, Derek said, but his voice lacked conviction. Am I? How much did you pay for those new locks you were so excited about? The ones you ordered off Amazon specifically so I couldn't come home? His face answered for him. Madison had gone pale. We didn't think. Didn't think what? That I'd survive? That I'd make something of myself? I looked at each of them in turn. Or you didn't think at all? Now hold on. Gary stepped forward, trying to reclaim some authority. You're making this sound worse than it was. We gave you money. $69 for an 18-year-old with no phone, no job, no place to live. I smiled. Know what that buys? About 2 weeks of ramen if you're careful. Grandma's walker thumped again. Linda, tell me this isn't true. Mom opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. We thought she'd figure it out. She was always so independent and... The word came out sharper than I'd intended. I was 17, still in high school. You watched me walk across that graduation stage and then abandoned me in a parking lot. You're being dramatic, Madison said, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. You know what's dramatic? I shot back. Sleeping in a 24-hour diner because you have nowhere else to go. Working night shifts, washing dishes until your hands bleed. Living in a storage room and eating leftovers for a year. I paused. But you're right. I should probably thank you. That got their attention. Thank us. Mom looked confused. Absolutely. Getting abandoned was the best thing that ever happened to me. It taught me that I couldn't depend on anyone. That blood means nothing. That the only person I could trust was myself. I gestured at the limo. So yeah, thanks for the life lesson. You can't just show up here after 13 years, Derek started. And what? Embarrass you? I laughed. I'm not here for reconciliation. I'm not here to forgive and forget and play happy families. I'm here because I wanted you to see exactly what you threw away. Uncle Pete cleared his throat. Maybe we should all calm down. I am calm. I looked at my mother. Did you ever think about me even once? She didn't answer. The silence stretched. That's what I thought. I put my sunglasses back on. Enjoy your reunion. Natalie? Grandma's voice came through the connection. I got your number from the RSVP email. Hope that's okay. It's fine, Grandma. I meant what I said about not knowing. Your mother told us you'd moved away for school. We thought she sighed. We thought you just wanted distance. We didn't know the truth. It's not your fault. Maybe not, but I should have asked more questions. Should have checked in. A pause. Your grandfather died 3 years ago. He would have wanted to see you. The regret in her voice was genuine. It hurt in a different way than Mom's silence had. I'm sorry I missed the funeral. You didn't know. How could you? Another pause. That limo. You really doing okay? Yeah, Grandma. I really am. Good. That's good. I heard her take a breath. Your mother's ashamed, you know. Won't admit it, but I can see it. What they did, it wasn't right. I won't make excuses for her. I don't need excuses. I just needed them to see that I made it anyway. And you did. Lord, you did. She laughed a dry sound. A partner at an investment firm. Your grandfather would have been tickled pink. We talked for a few more minutes. She gave me updates on cousins I barely remembered, asked about my life in Dallas, made me promise to visit her next time I was in Oklahoma. I agreed, and I meant it. Grandma had always been kind in the distant way of elderly relatives who see you twice a decade. When we hung up, I felt lighter somehow, like I'd closed a door that had been hanging open for 13 years. The Dallas skyline appeared on the horizon as the sun started to set. James merged onto the highway, the limo smooth and quiet. Long day? He asked. You could say that. Those reunions can be rough. I smiled. This one had its moments. My phone buzzed constantly as we drove. A text from Aunt Carol apologizing and asking for my contact information. A Facebook friend request from a cousin I played with exactly twice. A long rambling email from Derek that I deleted without reading. Nothing from Mom or Madison. Fine. I hadn't expected apologies. I hadn't even wanted them, really. What I wanted was for them to see what they'd lost. To understand that throwing away a child had consequences. That I'd survived and thrived without them. And they'd seen it. The limo pulled up to my house just after 9. James carried my overnight bag to the door, refusing the extra tip I tried to give him. You take care of yourself, he said. Inside, the house was exactly as I'd left it. Clean lines, carefully chosen furniture, art on the walls from local galleries, evidence of a life built from nothing but determination and spite. I poured a glass of wine and sat on my back patio looking at the stars. My phone rang. Grandma again. Just wanted to make sure you got home safe, she said. I did. Thanks for checking. One more thing, yeah? I'm proud of you. Don't know if anyone said that, but I am. What you've accomplished, who you've become. It's remarkable. My throat tightened. Thank you. Grandma. After we hung up, I sat in the darkness for a long time, thinking about that girl at the bus stop with $69 and a stranger's clothes, about the choices that had led her here. I'd wanted revenge, wanted to rub their faces in my success, and I'd done it. Mission accomplished. But sitting there on my patio, in the house I'd bought with money I'd earned, I felt something unexpected. Closure. I didn't need them anymore. Didn't need their approval, their apologies, or their guilt. The girl they'd abandoned had died 13 years ago at a bus stop in Oklahoma. The woman who'd replaced her was someone they couldn't have imagined. And that woman was doing just fine. I finished my wine and went inside. Tomorrow I had a meeting with a new client, a portfolio to rebalance, a life to live. The past could stay where I'd left it, in a storage unit above a diner, in sleepless nights and bleeding hands, in the rearview mirror of a limousine driving away from people who'd never deserved me in the first place. I was done looking. Thank you for reading my story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on more content. Your support means a lot and helps me continue sharing these stories. See you in the next one. Let me know if you'd like to make any changes.